So, failure. Fun topic, right? About as fun as a Tesla running out of battery in the middle of nowhere. Which, by the way, happened to me last week. But we'll get to that. Look, I've failed more times than I've successfully launched rockets. And trust me, that's saying something because we've blown up a lot of rockets. Like, embarrassingly expensive fireworks. But here's the thing, and this might sound crazy coming from someone who literally shoots cars into space for fun, your fear of failure is probably the only thing standing between you and whatever impossible thing you're dreaming about. I'm Elon Musk, and today we're going to talk about why failure isn't your enemy. It's your very expensive, very dramatic teacher. And by the end of this, you'll understand why I actually get excited when things go wrong. Well, mostly. Here's what nobody tells you about fear of failure. It's not really about the failure itself. It's about what other people will think. It's about looking stupid. It's about that voice in your head that sounds suspiciously like your third grade teacher saying, "That's not how things work, Elon." And you know what? Sometimes that voice is right. Sometimes things don't work. Sometimes you do look stupid. I once called a guy a pedo on Twitter because I was mad about a submarine. A submarine. Who does that? But here's the plot twist. The fear of looking stupid will make you do way dumber things than actually failing ever will. Think about it. When you're paralyzed by fear, you make safe choices. Boring choices. You take the job that pays well but slowly kills your soul. You don't ask out the person you like. You don't start that business. You don't move to Mars. Okay, maybe that last one is just me. But here's the mathematical reality. The cost of inaction almost always exceeds the cost of wrong action. I learned this the hard way, multiple times. Like when I was too scared to pivot early with my first company and almost lost everything. Or when I was afraid to go all in on Tesla and nearly bankrupted myself. Fear makes you play defense when life rewards offense. Let me tell you about my favorite failure. It's 2008. The world's falling apart financially, Tesla's burning through cash like rocket fuel, and SpaceX has just had its third rocket explode. 3 failures in a row. Each one cost about $60 million. Do the math, that's $180 million of very expensive boom. I'm standing in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific, watching what's supposed to be the future of space travel turn into the world's most expensive underwater debris field. And I'm thinking, maybe everyone's right. Maybe I am just a rich guy with stupid ideas about rockets. The press is having a field day. Elon's folly. Money can't buy physics. Why doesn't he just buy a yacht like normal rich people? Valid questions, honestly. But here's what happened next. I had 2 choices, quit and save face, or use this failure as data. Because that's all failure really is, expensive data. Every explosion taught us something. The engine wasn't cooling right. The fuel mixture was wrong. The staging sequence needed work. 3 months later, Falcon 1 became the first privately funded rocket to reach orbit. Not because I was fearless, but because I was more afraid of giving up than I was of failing again. And that Tesla that was doomed to fail? Well, it's worth more than most countries' GDP now. Not bad for a failure, right? Here's something most people don't know. Failure is literally how learning works. At the neurological level, your brain only updates its models when predictions are wrong. When things go exactly as expected, your brain basically says, "Cool, I already knew that," and moves on. But when you fail, that's when your brain sits up and pays attention. It's like, wait, what? That didn't work. Let me rewrite some code here. Failure is your brain's way of upgrading its software. Without it, you're stuck running the same outdated programs forever. Think about how kids learn to walk. They don't read a manual. They don't watch YouTube tutorials. They just fall down. A lot. Like, constantly. It's actually pretty hilarious if you think about it. But nobody judges a toddler for falling. We celebrate when they get back up. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that falling down is part of the process. We started treating failure like a verdict instead of a rough draft. But here's the thing, every expert was once a beginner. Every successful company had moments where they almost died. Every great idea sounded stupid to somebody. I mean, people thought the idea of reusable rockets was impossible. You can't just land a rocket like an airplane, Elon. Physics doesn't work that way. Well, physics works exactly that way, it turns out. We just hadn't figured out how yet. So how do you stop being afraid of failure? You change the definition. Instead of failure equals bad, try failure equals information. Instead of I can't do this, try I can't do this yet. That little word, yet, is magic. It transforms a full stop into a comma. When something doesn't work, ask 3 questions. What did I learn? What would I do differently? What do I try next? That's it. That's the whole system. You're not failing, you're experimenting. You're not broken, you're iterating. And here's a pro tip from someone who's made every mistake in the book: fail fast and fail cheap. Don't spend 5 years building something in secret. Build a prototype in 5 days. Test it. Break it. Learn from it. Then do it again, but better. At SpaceX, we have a saying, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. Our engineers compete to see who can break things in the most creative ways. Because every failure in testing is a disaster we avoided in space. Every problem we solve on the ground is a life we might save up there. You know what's worse than failing? Regret. Regret is failure's evil twin. Failure teaches you something. Regret just haunts you. I've talked to a lot of people who are much older than me, and you know what they regret most? Not the things they tried and failed at. They regret the things they never tried at all. They regret the risks they didn't take. The dreams they put on hold. That someday, that never came. Jeff Bezos calls it the regret minimization framework. When you're 80, what will you regret more, trying and failing, or never trying at all? I'll tell you what I'd regret, not trying to make life multiplanetary. Not trying to accelerate sustainable transport. Not trying to merge humans with AI. Even if I fail at all of it, at least I'll know I tried. And here's the beautiful thing about failure, it's temporary. But regret? That can last a lifetime. So choose your pain wisely. So here's your homework. And yes, I'm giving you homework. Deal with it. First, identify one thing you've been putting off because you're afraid of failing. Just one. Maybe it's starting that business. Maybe it's learning to code. Maybe it's asking someone out. Maybe it's learning to juggle. I don't know your life. Second, make the smallest possible version of that thing. Don't try to build Tesla on day 1. Build a go-kart. Don't try to get to Mars immediately. Build a model rocket. Don't try to write the great American novel. Write a really weird tweet. Third, set a failure quota. Seriously. Decide that you're going to fail at least 10 times this month. Make failure a goal. When you're trying to fail, you'll paradoxically start succeeding, because you'll actually be trying things. And remember, every master was once a disaster. Every expert was once a beginner. Every success story has a chapter titled, "That Time Everything Went Horribly Wrong." Look, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that failure doesn't hurt. It does. It sucks. It's expensive and embarrassing, and sometimes you just want to hide under a blanket and pretend you never tried. But here's what I've learned from blowing up rockets, almost losing companies, and generally making a fool of myself on the internet. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the raw material of success. It's the tuition you pay to the University of Life. Every failure is a story. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Every no gets you closer to a yes. And every time you get back up, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than your circumstances. The version of you that succeeds is built from the lessons of the version of you that fails. You can't have one without the other. So stop trying to avoid failure and start trying to collect it. Make it your friend. Make it your teacher. Make it your very expensive, very dramatic co-pilot on the journey to whatever impossible thing you're trying to achieve. Because here's the truth, the only real failure is not trying. Everything else is just data. Everything else is just practice. Everything else is just the universe's way of saying, not yet, but keep going. So here's what I want you to do right now. Before you watch another video, before you check your phone, before you go back to your comfortable, safe, failure-free life, I want you to take one small action toward that thing you've been afraid to try. Send that email. Make that call. Write that first line. Take that first step. And if it doesn't work, congratulations. You just got your first piece of data. You just started the experiment. You just began the journey from I can't to I did. Hit that subscribe button if you want more uncomfortable truths about success. Leave a comment about the scariest thing you're going to try this week. And remember, we're not just trying to get to Mars here. We're trying to get to the best version of ourselves. And that journey, it's powered by failure, fueled by persistence, and guided by the radical belief that impossible is just another word for not yet. Now go fail at something spectacular. The universe is waiting to see what you'll learn.